Welcome to a journey into the hidden landscapes of the human mind. There is a specific kind of presence that moves through the world almost invisibly, yet leaves a profound, undeniable impact on everyone it encounters. We are speaking of a rare psychological architecture, a personality archetype known for its quiet, unassuming nature, yet possessing an aura that can inexplicably unsettle those around them. Before a single word is spoken, before an introduction is even made, this individual alters the atmospheric pressure of a room. It is not an act of intimidation. In fact, their deepest desire is quite the opposite. They yearn to create a sanctuary of safety, a space where others feel genuinely understood, held, and truly seen. Yet the energy they carry is so concentrated, so focused and deeply aware, that it pierces through the superficial layers of everyday social interaction. People feel it instantly. It is a sensation that is incredibly difficult to articulate. A sudden awareness that you are standing in the presence of someone who operates on a fundamentally different emotional frequency. To understand why this aura feels so overwhelmingly different, we must look at how most of society functions. We live in a world built on carefully constructed emotional walls. From a young age, we are taught to wear masks, to smile politely, to maintain harmony, to hide our true struggles for the sake of social survival and collect progress. We show only the curated, acceptable fragments of our identities, burying our grief, our insecurities, and our raw truths deep within. But this individual, bearing this rare psychological depth, does not interact with masks. Their energy is not shallow or scattered among distractions. It is distilled. When they enter a space, they do not attempt to dominate it or take up physical room. Instead, their eyes hold a quiet, ancient kind of understanding. It is a gaze that makes others suddenly realize they have been noticed in ways they never anticipated, and perhaps ways they never wanted. It is as if this person can effortlessly see the ghost of the sorrows and truths we desperately try to hide. This brings us to the first profound element of this phenomenon, which is the mirror effect of quiet intensity. This individual possesses a calmness that is never empty. It is a profound, active stillness. When they listen, they do not just hear words. They are fiercely, almost aggressively present. They maintain a steady, sincere eye contact that does not waver. They do not interrupt. They do not rush to fill the uncomfortable silences with meaningless chatter. In our modern era, where attention is fractured and listening is often just waiting for one's turn to speak, this level of pure, undivided attention is strikingly rare. And because it is rare, it is profoundly uncomfortable for the average person. When you are truly listened to, it feels as though you are standing before a pristine, unblemished mirror. This mirror does not reflect your physical form. It reflects your internal state, capturing everything from hidden guilt to unspoken desires. It is vital to understand that they do not expose people maliciously or intentionally. Their quiet, empathetic presence simply removes the ambient noise of society, leaving the other person alone with their own unvarnished truth. Imagine sitting across from someone who radiates absolute non-judgment, yet completely refuses to look away from your core. That kind of gaze forces you to see yourself more clearly than you have in years. Most individuals are entirely unprepared for this emotional collision. They often mistake this unwavering focus for intense pressure or harsh judgment. In reality, it is simply a tapestry woven from deep empathy and acute awareness. This mirror quality is precisely why this personality archetype is simultaneously deeply cherished and intensely feared. They possess the rare gift of making a human being feel profoundly seen. But to a soul unaccustomed to the light, being seen feels terrifyingly similar to being exposed. Defensiveness kicks in naturally as a protective mechanism against this emotional nakedness. A second aspect of this intimidating aura is an almost supernatural perceptiveness that quietly uncovers what people are desperate to hide. They notice the microscopic details that the rest of the world overlooks. The slight shift in tone, a momentary shadow crossing an expression, the unnatural timing of a laugh, and the invisible shifts in emotional temperature. They process these variables so rapidly that it can genuinely feel as though they are reading minds. They can intuitively sense when a smile is masking an agonizing pain, or when words of agreement are covering deep internal conflict. They do not actively try to investigate or interrogate. This perception simply happens to them. Their intuition acts as an endless collector of details, connecting dots in a fraction of a second. For someone who relies on their emotional armor to navigate the world, being in the presence of someone who bypasses that armor effortlessly feels deeply invasive, regardless of the gentle intentions behind it. This quiet knowing is what terrifies people the most. This perceptive individual requires no logical proof, no tangible evidence, and no elaborate explanations. They simply know, and occasionally, driven by profound empathy, they will softly utter a statement that cuts straight to the bone of the truth. A friend might be putting on a brave face, exhausting themselves to maintain the illusion of strength, and this person will gently say, "You seem so incredibly tired of pretending." It is never meant as an accusation. It is an offering of grace. Yet, a statement so intimately true can strike harder than the most aggressive confrontation. It shatters the illusion. This staggering ability is born from the seamless collaboration of their deep empathy and analytical intuition. They feel the emotional frequency of the room, but they process it with profound insight. To someone who wishes to keep their secrets buried under the soil of ordinary life, this gentle excavation is perceived as a profound threat. The third dynamic that contributes to this aura is an ocean of emotional depth that can easily feel overwhelming to the casual observer. They do not experience emotion in a linear, single-file procession. They experience it in complex, heavy layers. They can feel profound sorrow, fierce joy, and agonizing empathy all in the exact same breath, like a beautiful, dissonant chord struck on a grand piano. These emotions are rarely loud, but their undercurrent is tremendously strong. People who are accustomed to lighter, more transactional emotional energy often find themselves suddenly struggling to swim when they enter this deep water. The depth of this person often manifests in their eyes, or the quiet gravity of their tone. They can utter the simplest, most mundane phrase, and yet it carries the heavy resonance of a philosopher. When a story of pain is shared with them, they do not merely offer sympathetic words. They absorb the pain into their very bones. This extraordinary capacity for emotional connection is a beautiful gift, but for a world terrified of feeling, it is simply too much. Some individuals sense this intensity the moment they shake hands. They describe it as a strange heaviness, a solemnity, that makes small talk feel completely absurd. They may even feel physically drained after an encounter, purely because they are entirely unequipped to exist in the presence of an emotional reality that's strong. The person projecting this aura does not do so maliciously. They merely exist in a state of hyper-awareness that radiates outward like heat from a stone that has been sitting in the sun. Encountering this depth forces the average person to confront their own emotional shallow waters. It is an unspoken invitation to vulnerability, a terrifying prospect for those who spend their lives avoiding their own hearts. Their quiet compassion highlights the spiritual emptiness of superficial interactions, and the truth of that emptiness is an incredibly intimidating thing to face. A fourth reason this aura unsettles so many is rooted in an absolute, uncompromising need for authenticity, which inherently challenges the comfortable status quo. They possess practically zero tolerance for the artificial, the shallow, or the performative aspects of society. They hunger for truth, for raw honesty, and for the genuine essence of a human being. When they are placed in environments filled with people who operate behind corporate masks, who exaggerate their accomplishments, or who perform merely to earn applause, their very energy acts as a quiet rebellion. It is not that they stand up and shout condemnations. It is simply that their silent presence acts as a brilliant light, starkly illuminating the contrast between the genuine and the fake. Society dictates that we must adjust ourselves to fit the mold, to echo the sentiments of the group, and to bury our dissenting thoughts. This profound individual refuses to play this societal game. Their refusal to conform is communicated through their stillness, their measured body language, and their quiet sincerity. This dedication to truth breaks the unspoken contracts of everyday social survival. When people realize that this person is not participating in the collective pretense, a profound self-consciousness takes hold. The surrounding people begin to silently panic, wondering if their own carefully crafted masks have been seen through. In workplaces or social hierarchies built entirely on appearances and flattery, this genuine soul stands out like a solitary oak tree in a field of plastic grass. They do not engage in idle gossip. They refuse to offer empty compliments, and they cannot manufacture fake enthusiasm. This quiet, unshakable integrity serves as a painful reminder to others of the substance lacking in their own lives. People react by labeling them as too serious, complicated, or difficult, blindly projecting their own profound discomfort with an unlived, inauthentic life. The fifth element that contributes to their intimidating mystique is their absolute necessity for solitude, a practice deeply misunderstood by modern culture. In a society that equates constant noise, relentless productivity, and perpetual availability with success and connection, the choice to step back into the shadows feels almost offensive. When this emotionally deep individual vanishes from the social grid to reflect, process, and rebuild their depleted energy, others take it as a personal insult. They misinterpret the need for silence as an act of arrogant withdrawal or cold rejection. This fundamental misunderstanding quickly morphs innocent curiosity into defensive fear. What society fails to grasp is that this retreat is a matter of psychological survival. Their minds are constantly analyzing, and their hearts are constantly absorbing the emotional debris of everyone they meet. Without the sanctuary of solitude, they would completely shatter under the weight of the world's pain. Because they pull away quietly, without feeling the need to offer a dramatic explanation or apology, their absence is painted with the colors of mystery and aloofness. People project their own deepest insecurities onto this silence. They assume they are being judged, graded, or abandoned. In unreality, the profound individual is not thinking about rejection at all. They are desperately seeking equilibrium. They are diving into the quiet to find peace, not to build walls. When they finally return, carrying a renewed sense of calm and composed energy, As if they have journeyed to a distant, tranquil universe, it leaves others utterly bewildered. The contrast between their quiet absence and their steady presence makes those around them feel dependent on noise. What the world views as a mysterious cold detachment is, in fact, the highest form of self-control and self-preservation. And true self-control is incredibly intimidating to a world that lacks it. Finally, we must understand the silent pressure of their unyielding expectations. This personality type holds themselves, and by natural extension, the world around them, to quiet but monumental standards. They operate on foundational pillars of kindness, unwavering honesty, moral consistency, and emotional responsibility. These are not rigid rules they enforce upon others. It is simply the oxygen they breathe, the only way they know how to exist. However, when others sense the sheer height of these internal standards, they inevitably feel inadequate. The profound soul does not need to preach their values. They demonstrate them by showing up when they say they will, by keeping sacred promises, and by refusing to lie even when it is convenient. When the people around them falter, taking the easy way out or betraying their own words, the contrast is deafening. The silence of the deep soul in the face of mediocrity communicates more powerfully than 1,000 angry words. In matters of human connection, this dynamic is amplified entirely. They expect relationships to possess profound depth and demand mutual, exhausting effort. They have zero interest in fair-weather friendships, superficial affections, or one-sided emotional labor. When they commit their heart to someone, they give of themselves completely, holding nothing back. This level of absolute devotion is terrifying to a modern world terrified of commitment. It raises the bar to a height most are unwilling to climb. People quickly realize that to stand beside this person, they must strip away their illusions and offer their whole unpolished selves. This creates a defensive friction. People will accuse the profound soul of being overly demanding, suffocating, or impossible to please. In truth, they are simply reacting to the painful realization that they themselves have been settling for fractions of a life. The deep soul's standards merely illuminate the compromises the rest of the world has accepted as normal. This aura, quiet, steady, and incredibly heavy with emotional truth, possesses a strange, magnificent power. It never shouts for attention, yet it completely rewrites the energy of every space it occupies. It is an atmosphere woven purely from empathy, authenticity, and unwavering presence. And yes, for a great many people, that is terrifying. But it is vital to recognize that it is not terrifying because it is dark or malicious. It is terrifying because it is pure, unfiltered light. This individual moves through a distracted, exhausted world, continuously searching for profound meaning, refusing to look away from the painful beauty of reality. Their silence holds more gravity than an hour of loud debate. Their intuition catches the tears before they fall, and their sheer existence forces the world to look in the mirror. If you carry this profound weight, understand that your energy is not a flaw to be corrected or a rough edge to be sanded down. You do not need to dilute your depth or apologize for the truth that radiates from your spirit just to make the fragile masks of others feel more comfortable. The individuals who truly value authenticity, those who have done the difficult work of facing their own shadows, will never find your energy intimidating. Instead, they will find it to be a sanctuary. They will see your heavy aura as a grounding force, a lighthouse in a storm of superficiality. What terrifies the hollow heart will profoundly heal the sincere one. You were designed to look past the surface, to bring absolute calm to chaos, and to introduce devastating truth to places of confusion. Never let the discomfort of others convince you to dim the brilliance of your spirit. Your presence is a rare grace in a world desperate for reality. May you continue to walk in the quiet strength of your truth, finding peace in the deep waters you were born to navigate.